Hi, my name is Crystal Martin. I'll do intros later, but welcome to Freedom Dreams for School Transformation, presented by the Institute for Healing and Belonging in Schools at NYU Metro. We are so excited to have you all here. We have a wealth of information to share with you, and we'll just get right to it because there's a lot of good stuff. I don't know who's controlling slides, but it's not me. My hands are on the screen. My name is Dr. Crystal Martin. I'm Senior Equity Associate for the Institute of Healing Belonging in Schools at NYU Metro. It's a long title. I come to you as a community psychologist with over 13 years of experience as a school counselor. I also started my career in my youth as a television producer. That's a story for a whole other day. But I feel like that very unique intersection brings us to the work that we'll be discussing today. And I'll give you a little bit more about that after I introduce Dr. Wenimo Okoya, who's the director of the Institute, and give her an opportunity to go ahead and share about herself.
Thank you, Crystal. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Wenimo Okoya. I'm, as Crystal said, the director of the Institute. We're really excited to be with you all today because it is a time that we're living in, and we feel like this couldn't have come at a better moment, even though we had this planned in advance. So I started my career as a classroom teacher in Newark, New Jersey. People say Newark as hard as they say the Bronx. So it's pronounced N-O-R-K for folks that aren't from Jersey. And it was through my experience as an educator that I started to think about how systems could be really different. And I sort of landed on equity work through trying to figure out how to heal people and heal systems. And at the Institute, we are actually brand new. We're launching. We used to be known as the Center for Strategic Solutions, and we partner with schools and districts to cultivate environments where every student receives what they need to develop their full academic, social potential through providing workshops, coaching, community capacity building, but really experiences where they can come to us and really learn about what it could be like to transform schools to center the needs of Black and Brown students and other students who are historically marginalized. And through that work, we believe that every student benefits. So that's a little bit about the Institute. And then I want to just sort of talk about and ground us in the National Day of Racial Healing, which I didn't know existed actually until last year. But the Kellogg Foundation started this as sort of a national movement following Martin Luther King Day to help sort of bring communities and people together to heal and have healing-centered conversations. So across the country, you all are part of a group of folks that are having conversations like and different to ours, but are all centered on healing and belonging. And so Dr. Martin is really kind of this work around freedom dreaming for school transformation is really her brainchild, and we're excited to share this with you all today. So I wanted to really ground this work in Dr. Martin Luther King's legacy. So again, it's not an accident that the National Day for Racial Healing follows Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which was yesterday, which, you know, for many of us was overshadowed by other events. And I really took the day to kind of ground myself back in the letter from Birmingham jail. I think that oftentimes Dr. King gets quoted for kind of the things that he says that are fluffy and airy, and all of those things are true. And he had this like very bold, beautiful vision for the future. But this quote really sat with me as I was going into today, and Crystal and I thought it would be good to kind of ground us in this moment. So as I read this quote, I really want you to take a moment to ground yourself in Dr. King's legacy and his spirit, in what he hoped for us as a people, as a nation, as a collective. We know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. In a real sense, all life is interrelated. All men are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And what I really love about the letter from Birmingham jail is that Dr. King really convicted us to think about what freedom should actually look like. That freedom was not going to come easy. And I think that his words really sing true today, which in some ways feels like we've made no progress at all. In other ways, I think it provides hope for where we could be if we kind of sink back into his words again. So as we think about racial healing and belonging, I think that if I could bold one word on this slide, it would be freedom, right? We all are seeking freedom, and we know that our freedom is intertwined. There's mutuality in it, that we are all interconnected in these ways. And so our work today is to honor this legacy and to think about how we can dream freedom, and what that could be. So I just want to take a moment to honor Dr. King, his legacy, and instill in us a little bit of hope of where we're going. I'll pass it to you, Crystal.
Thank you, Wenimo. Now, you know, for that slide, I wanted to use the I have a dream speech. We're in a freedom dreaming session. But what I love, nope, you know what I love about when Wenimo challenged me with the letter from Birmingham jail is she really got me to think about how during times like this, we need something to run to, not just something to run from. And I feel like that letter is very radical in nature. It's not very, you know, kind of docile in the way that some perceive the I have a dream speech to be. Is kind of fluffy and airy, as you said, Winimo. So it's quite a challenge to look at that. But I love the way that that quote ends in destiny, and that is freedom dreaming, right? It's like what destiny we're running towards. And so with that, this pathway to school transformation is the Institute's pathway to freedom dreaming. It is the steps that we believe schools will need to take, knowledge that we'll need to learn and develop over time with each other in community to get to a place where we can really actualize schools as all the things that we call them. Like, we want schools to be rooted in equity and inclusive environments. We want them to be places and centers of belonging. But how do we get there? And this transformation timeline or pathway is one such way. It's really a holistic approach. It is our belief that critical interrogation will lead us to identifying the trauma that is caused by systemic harm. Once we've identified what those traumas are, we are able to really kind of ground ourselves in trauma-informed practices and cultural responsiveness. And once we're able to do those things, we are able to really start to heal traumas that have been caused by systemic factors. Once we know all of those things, we can really sort of dream and recreate spaces and practice our futures each day in the work that we do as educators. And so this is a very concise look at a longer series that Wenimo and I do together, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in the presentation. But just to give you an overview of kind of our logic model, this is it in a nutshell. All right, you can go to the next one. All right, so during our time today, obviously we've already kind of taken our time with Dr. Martin Luther King. He may come up in some other spaces, but we want to introduce freedom dreaming as a tool. We'll also engage in a visualization exercise together. It's a little sample, a little taste test of the work that we do in our longer 12-session series. We want to talk about our summer institute that is coming. If this work that we do today really resonates with you and you'd like to continue learning about freedom dreaming and how you can apply it to your practice, we'll share some information about that too. What you'll need, and we'll give you a couple of seconds to go get it, is your pen or pencil, because you'll be doing some writing. You'll need paper. And please don't tell me you need to go get your imagination. Hopefully that's queued up and ready to go. At least come with the spirit of curiosity and energy. We expect that this will be a fun environment. It's too bad that I can't really talk to you guys. I'd love to be able to see you and talk to you, but I'm going to give you all the energy, even if I can't see you. So take a moment, go get those things, literally like 10 seconds, and then we're going to move along.
I'm going to give them the 10 seconds.
Okay.
Then...
Can you give them the objectives too?
Okay, do you want me to cover this?
Nope, I'll
Oh,
cover it.
okay.
I just figured may as well have that up on the screen while everyone takes their 10 seconds to go get their stuff. All right. Winimo's helping me to be okay with pauses. She's much better paced than I am. I'm like, let's get to it so we don't run out of time. All right. So our objectives for today. Hopefully, oh, you guys can chat. Oh, absolutely. Can I just point out, use the chat function because we can't see you guys. We love to be able to talk to you. So if anything resonates, anything stands out to you, there are any aha moments or haha moments, put those in the chat. We love to hear them. All right, our objectives for today. We are going to understand the power of freedom dreaming, what it is, how we apply it to the field of education. We're going to experience collective joy and a visualization exercise that will really help us to envision what our schools can be like. And then we're going to apply a practical freedom dreaming strategy, which is a freedom dreaming map with actionable steps. You're going to do that for your school should you choose to take on the challenge. And we will help you navigate through that process today. All right, so I just gave you a little heads up about using the chat function. So hopefully I can get you all to buy in and do it. You're going to jot down in the chat, jot it down on paper or drop it in the chat. What would it look like to build schools where every student has the opportunity to thrive, feel valued, and experience their full potential? Put your answers in the chat. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can jot them down on paper. But what would it look like? What kinds of sounds would you hear? What kinds of things would you see? What kind of structures would be in place? What kinds of systems would be in place? Take a moment just to think that through. I'm going to stop filling the space with my voice in a second, but take a moment to think that through. Write it down, but hopefully you'll share your responses with us in the chat because we love to see them. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to think on that. Our answers are starting to come in. I see a response from Keisha, lots of different stakeholders coming together and listening to one another. Love that. Questions will be raised out of curiosity and respect. Keep those answers coming. We'd love to see them. Honoring culture. Let me see, it moved up. Honoring culture through integration of knowledge and history in curriculum and visuals, rather than a repetitive recycling of characters from 1 month when histories are rich. Oh, love that. I can't interact with these, huh? Students have a strong sense of community and ownership of the school, a school with a diverse body of teachers.
I can help
Opportunities
you
for
read them. I can scroll.
Yeah, this is good. Okay.
A school of diverse body. Oh, you read that already. I think you missed question. Success, smiles, positivity in language, thriving curiosity in all areas.
We
Showing
see some common language here. I see the use of the word diverse a lot. Imagining something that might initially feel chaotic to me because I would not be in control. Students would have agency to determine how and what they learn. I love that. Students and families feel free to be their authentic selves. Keep those answers coming in the chat.
I love what you shared, Linnell, around imagining something that might initially feel chaotic, that it feels different than what we're used to.
Love this. If you haven't had an opportunity to share out or read the comments of others that are in the chat, go ahead and take some time to do that now. And we will have an opportunity to come back to some of these in the very near future. Not presuming to know or speak on behalf of others, but seeking source and asking questions. Deanna, you're on fire tonight. Huh? Exposure to real world moments and offerings and cultural institutions, inviting innovators, entrepreneurs, healers, many professionals to work with and be seen in our schools, real community schools, and networks who show up for the needs of the community. Thank you. Beautiful language. All right. While you're still dropping those dreams in the chat, Wenimo, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, and I can give you guys some context while we still take in some answers and while you read the entries of others. So much like the quotes that you all have dropped into the chat, this slide really kind of embodies where or how I came to discover freedom dreaming as a tool. Last year, I was doing some digging around in the banned book list. I had chosen to read it, read through the list and really kind of develop my own position on each book that was listed there. So I was working from number 1 all the way through, didn't matter what the reading level was. I had taken on the challenge to really kind of equip myself with knowledge and just kind of form my own position on whether or not or where these books should land. And what I found in that journey is that many of these books were really cultural battlefields. And one thing that was one book in particular that really stuck out to me is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. If you've read it, you probably already know, but this book really kind of, it feels like we're living in the times of that book and the sequel right now. Like we're seeing some manifestations of what was written there. If you've never read the book, it's a great read. But one tool that Octavia Butler uses is one, she's a science fiction writer. So she often plays with future realities, right? And how we can kind of practice our futures, get to these ends, and how we can be transformed and changed along the way. And so in that digging, I was also doing some work with the New York City DOE on healing-centered practices. And remember, I told you when this presentation started that my background is in television production and directing, school counseling, and psychology. It's a very unique intersection, but it all comes together and makes sense in the realm of freedom dreaming, mainly because of the use of narratives to create change. And so in digging, doing some research, I found all of this evidence. Many people who have been known to fight for equity and inclusion and for those who have been historically pushed to the margins would say all of these words about the necessity of imagination, the necessity of running towards something versus from something. And so these are some of those quotes, but one such quote that sticks out to me is that big, huge one in the middle by Robin D.G. Kelley: "Without new visions, we don't know what to build," right? Only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. So many times when I have gone into schools, I've done coaching, that sort of thing, everybody's looking for the magic pill that's going to fix children. Everybody's looking for the strategy. Everybody's looking for the thing, the framework, the tool that's going to make kids come in, sit down, and act right, right? Like just make everybody's job easier. But we know, as seasoned educators, I'm sure we all are, that that doesn't exist. But a process that can and must transform us can transform our practice. And if we're transforming our practice to an end goal that brings about equity, inclusion, belonging, and healing for children, then we can get children to have a more enjoyable school experience and create the future that we want to see. Wenimo, do you want to add, subtract, multiply, or divide anything to that? Okay, I can see you. Not
I couldn't see it.
I can't see anybody else, but I can see you. All right, you can go to the next slide. All right, so this work comes from um, Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Imagination by Dr. D.G. Kelly. It is a wonderful book that includes a ton of examples of how freedom dreaming has been used to spark revolution, to create change, to empower communities, and get people to buy in again to the change that we want to see in the world. Freedom dreaming itself is a process that's rooted in radical imagination and collective envisioning. It happens in collective. And so when Wenimo and I teach this series, we do it in groups because everyone's dream empowers the next. This work envisions a just and equitable future. It's not about imagining the world. It's about imagining the world not as it is, but as it should be, a world where justice, liberation, and belonging are realities for all. And so hopefully today we can get you to buy into the real change that comes from just imagining how things can be different, to empower yourselves, to really center the identities of those who have been pushed to the margins, and to disrupt the status quo and do education a little different. And with that, you can stop hearing my annoying voice. And I'm going to toss it over to Bo.
I love your voice. Thank you so much, Crystal, for that frame. And I think, you've shared a lot. So I want to give folks a moment to sort of digest all that was shared. And I told Crystal as we were doing this webinar, I was like, I really prefer theater to television. So not being able to see all your beautiful faces, is not my preference, but I love the engagement in the chat. So please keep that coming. So as we were talking about this series, we were thinking about the fact that, dreaming and imagination are not things that we're encouraged to do on a regular basis. And so in order to get you all into the mindset to dream with us in the moments that we have you all today, I'm going to lead you all in a guided dreaming exercise and help you to connect this work around freedom dreaming to our work in school. So actually, if folks could share like, what's your role? Just so we can kind of get a sense of that. I think some people did, but are you teachers? Are you school administrators, district folks, community-based organizations, social workers? Like, would love to just get a sense of who all is in the Zoom. And so as we talk about this, I want you to think about what is your locus of control? So is that your classroom? Is that your entire school? Is it a district? What is what you have control over? So we've got some teachers, got research scientists, district school social worker. Keep them coming in and folks will see them. You're writing. So we've got a pretty diverse group here: special education teacher, 4th grade, district school counselor. So we're all coming to this from different perspectives. Keep them coming in. Don't want my laptop to die. Executive director. District lead, got it. Early childhood center. Shout out to my early childhood people. I have a 1-year-old and I'm like, how do I teach you? So thank you for your work, Teelan. Parent leader of schools anti-racism. Awesome. So we've got a broad group of people here. So I want everyone to sort of think about, how you experience schools. And we might say school, we might say classroom, just like kind of use your lens for that. So as we get ready for this visualization, I ask folks to just take a moment and close your mental tabs, close your physical tabs on your computer, and just kind of come into the space. I know that there are a lot of things going on. Folks might be cooking dinner, but just take a moment and actually, if you can, engage in this visualization for us, because we find that this part is actually really critical for what comes next that Crystal is going to guide you all through. So we want you to really understand, and I know that all of us have empathy and understand, like think about the system, a school system from the perspective of a student. The barriers they experience, but also the possibilities that are available to them. And so as you do this, I ask you for a moment to like, if you need to do this by physically like removing this, then do it. If you can do it just by like kind of orienting your thinking, but remove the bounds of what's possible. Don't think about an actual school. Don't think about brick and mortar. Think about, school that could be outside, school that could be like classrooms that could not be in desks, right? Take the boundaries of what school looks like and bring that into this visualization. So I want you to step into the shoes of a student you adore. Now none of us have favorite students, but we all have favorite students, let's be honest here, right? And so this could be a student that might have some historically marginalized identity, but think about their identity in its most positive sense. Think about their personality. Think about what would make them feel seen. And before we begin, I want you all to close your eyes if you're able to, where you are. Go ahead and lift your shoulders up towards your ears and drop them down and back so that you're alert and awake. And go ahead and take the deepest breath you've taken all day, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Take a deep breath in through your nose. When you think you can't breathe anymore, take an extra sip of breath and exhale audibly. Inhale, extra sip, exhale. Now go ahead and settle your body. Notice yourself feeling a little bit more calm, a little bit more alert, a little bit more awake. Now, first imagine yourself as a student entering the school. Picture yourself standing outside of the school, building space, whatever it might be. Look at the space through their eyes. This dream school. How does it make them feel? What is it that makes them feel welcome? What is it that makes them feel valued? What that makes them feel seen? Now take a moment and draw out the picture of what in that school makes that student upon entering that school feel valued, feel seen, feel loved. Paint that picture in your mind as many ways as you need to. Again, reminding yourself to remove the bounds of what's possible. What's on the walls? Are there signs up? What does the space look like? What color is the front of the building? Are there steps? Is there a ramp? Are there windows? Is it brick? What does this school look like that makes a student feel valued, loved, seen? Now let's move through the day as a student. They're walking through the school, and I want to say hallway, but maybe it's not a hallway. How are they walking through the school? How do they know that they are supported by the adults in their building? What is it that makes them feel connected to their peers? What is it that makes them know that the adults in their building love them for who they are, not despite their identity, but because of it? Paint that picture. What do you see? What do you see in the building? What are the adults saying to the kids? How are kids interacting? Are they sitting? Are they standing during class? Where do they eat lunch? What are they eating? What does the building look like? What is their schedule like? Who do they sit with at lunch? What are those conversations like? How long is lunch? Are they inside all day? Are they outside all day? What would we need to add to the school throughout their day to make sure that they feel valued, safe, loved, seen? Valued, safe, loved, seen. Now, zoom out as a student walking out of school for the day. They've had an excellent day of school. What does their face look like? What are they going home with? What is that they're experiencing? What are they telling their parents or their caregivers as they leave? Now really take in that day. What is that student feeling? What is it that made them feel seen, valued, heard? Now go ahead and take another deep breath in through your nose, out through the mouth, and come back into the space. Now, I hope that was helpful in helping you all think about what schools could look like and setting you up for what's to come. So I think in the interest of time, I actually want you all to take this journal reflection with you. But the question that I want folks to answer in the chat was, how did it feel to dream freely about what could be possible? So folks could just drop that answer in the chat. You can answer other questions too, but just like respond to one. What stood out during the visualization? What inspired you the most about that transformed school? What was different about your current school, the way that you experience schools? And those last questions can just be bonus for you to take with you. So folks could just drop in the chat. Limitless relief. I love that. I want that on a mug.
That's beautiful.
What else? How did it feel to dream? Takes the doubt out of possibility because you're designing what you want to see. Refreshing. Hopeful. Awakening. Exciting and full of promise. I love that. Freeing. So take that sort of sentiment and feeling into the next part of what we're going to do together today. And take it back into your work, into your schools. So I'll pass it back to Crystal for a vision mapping exercise.
Thank you, Wenimo. Wenimo has the perfect soothing voice. When we first started this series, one of the things that I said to Wenimo is, how often do we get to dream on the clock? Dream about our jobs. It is our dreams that really transforms our practice. It's really the thing that gives us autonomy over the work that we do. So often we go to professional development opportunities and we're, like I said earlier, looking for solutions because we have some very real present problems. But how often do we get to ask ourselves, why do we want those solutions? And so now we're going to take that dream, that freeing experience, that awakening, hopeful, refreshing experience you just had in the visualization exercise and apply it to what we call vision mapping. It's a way to articulate your freedom dream, to explore any current barriers, envision any solutions, and identify some actionable steps to bring that dream to life. So I want you to just take a moment, pause, think about that dreaming exercise that you just completed with Wenimo, and think about one aspect of that dream that stood out to you, whether it was the way that the school looked, whether it was the body of students, whether it was what people were wearing. Just take a moment to really kind of connect with one of those things that you saw in that dreaming exercise. We're going to apply that one element to this vision mapping exercise we're going to do in the next step. And this is when you'll need your pen and paper. You won't be able to do this in the chat so easily. Wenimo, you can go to the next slide. So the vision mapping exercise really breaks your freedom dream up into 4 quadrants. Articulating what your dream is, identifying any current barriers, identifying opportunities for change, and then coming up with a plan for how to achieve it. And so for Wenimo and I, Wenimo has like when she talks about what she thinks schools can be, it really stuck out to me. She always says centers of belonging, which really kind of brings it home. It's very a concise way to look at it. As a school counselor, it speaks to my heart. And so when we were talking about our freedom dream, it is over here in the blue cloud. It's that every child walks through the school doors knowing their identity is celebrated, that their strengths are recognized, and they belong. The school environment actively fosters self-esteem and confidence through inclusive practices, cultural responsive teaching, and a deep commitment to affirming each student's unique qualities. So this is a very long and robust dream, but I want you to take a moment and draw these 4 kind of bubbles or clouds. Just however you want to do it. You can make it squares. Just create 4 quadrants. And in that first quadrant, write down what your dream is for your school. Whatever it was you saw in that visualization exercise, no matter how big, grand, outlandish it may seem, write that dream down in that first bubble. I did this exercise with some participants from the New York City DOE, and some very abstract things come up because we're able to do this exercise a little longer than we are here today. But one thing that someone said is, oh, I imagined that the school would be outdoors, like it would be fully outdoors. And we were like, okay, can it really be outdoors? But you can't imagine schools with windows, right? Like you can imagine that there are more windows. It's a way to bring the outdoors in. So no, even if it seems outlandish to you, go ahead and put that in the first bubble. Then in the bubble across, you're going to identify current barriers. What's standing in the way of you getting to that dream? Is it that in New York City, you can't exactly have a school that is fully outdoors, right? Like there's weather conditions, there's other factors, right? And so what barriers come into play? This is where I really want you to think about the systemic factors that may impact students. If you envision that exercise as a student who is in a wheelchair, did your school have a ramp? I know that Wenimo included that in the narration, but was that something that you saw? So is it a barrier that students with physical disabilities cannot get into your building? And then what opportunities are there for you to really create change? What is in your locus of control? What can you do to realize that dream? Perhaps you cannot architect or draw up a school that has no windows, but can you reface your classroom chairs so that they face the windows? What can you actually do to create an opportunity of change? If you're a district leader, how can you partner with one school to help bring your freedom dream to life? But when you think about opportunities for change, I want you to think a little bit deeper than like SMART goals, okay? Because we really want to imagine this for students who have been pushed to the margins. So if there are factors that are impeding your student feeling a sense of belonging, I want you to really think about where that starts and ends. It may not be something that you can change right here and right now. But remember that each day we're using our practice to practice a future that we want to see. We're using our role as educators to bring about an end that we do hope to see in the future. Maybe not in our lifetime, but in a lifetime. And then I want you to identify how you will achieve it. So think back to that dream, whatever it is. And then what's one thing that you can do today, this week, this school year, to make that dream, even if incremental, a reality? It could be as simple as refacing the chairs in your classroom to orient them towards the window. Wenimo, you can go to the next slide, which is, I narrated that for using our Freedom Dreaming map, but here are the actual questions that we will send to you after this presentation is done so that you can really walk through this exercise with any change you want to create in your school. As you look at this particular slide, the first quadrant's asking you to really think about the relationships and structures, the practices that would need to exist. And so we'll provide this to you as a very interactive worksheet you can reproduce and do each day. This is how you dream on the clock, is really taking that visualization that you had, spending some time with it, noticing things. Perhaps the walls were a different color, right? I remember when I was working in an elementary school, the walls were yellow. I was like, no wonder these kids are so hyper. It was like they were like the color was really loud. So perhaps something more calming and soothing, right, could be a small change that you can introduce. And so, as I said, we'll provide this to you after the presentation is over. Wenimo, you can go to the next one. All right. And with that, we are leading a summer institute, a summer learning series on freedom dreaming, and really freedom dreaming as well as healing centered practices, starting Tuesday, August 19th through the 21st. It is an very interactive session, a way for you to really spend more time with dreaming. So that refreshing feeling, that rejuvenating feeling, the energized feeling that comes from being able to just do that very brief visualizations exercise with Wenimo. We'll be spending 3 days in a very healing environment, learning together, learning from each other's dreams, and really applying a plan to bring them to reality. Wenimo, do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, just we're really excited about it. This is the first time we're going to be doing this summer learning series. We are here in New York City. We're trying to think about how we can incorporate some hybrid ideas. So probably we'll send out some like surveys and emails for folks. And so this is going to be happening in August. We're trying to schedule it for a time so folks can actually come together with their teams and envision how they can apply these practices to the work. We are hoping that as you leave here today, you're taking tools that you can use to carry you through the rest of the year. I know that this is a really challenging time to be working in schools. I feel like I always say that. I feel like I'm like, oh, this is a really challenging time to be working in schools. And it continues to feel that way. But we have hope and we owe it to our young people. We owe it to ourselves to dream and to center healing, to center our identities, the identities of that are most marginalized, and joy in doing that. That our resistance is that we show up in joy and in collective, and that we don't have to do this together. And so this will be taking place over the summer. Before this happens, we'll also have our third annual Equity Now conference, which is focusing on welcoming, affirming, and healing schools here in New York City. So there will be an opportunity to engage in a lot of wonderful workshops from experts across the country related to healing and belonging in schools. So really excited about that. Farah is going to drop the link for folks who, if they're not aware of it, so you can get a little bit more information about the conference. We have Gloria Ladson-Billings keynoting for us this year. So really excited to share just like the same space and air as Gloria Ladson-Billings. So really excited to share this with you all today in kind of like a nutshell, but know that this work continues and that there are ways that we can continue to connect. And just to end, I want to end with a closing reflection. And then we'll take some questions at the end because we'll have about 10 more minutes left, and folks can either put questions directly in the chat or comments, aha moments, or they can put them in the Q&A section, and Farah will help us uplift the questions. So what's one thing that you're taking away from this session? This quote from Asada Shakur I want to share. I had learned that the only way to deal with this life meaningfully is to find one's passion and to give one's heart to it. And the one thing I learned from that experience was the importance of dreaming. And so while I know it feels really fluffy to dream, we are researchers, educators, like we really ground this in the research. We really believe that this is the way forward. So would love for folks to share in the chat one thing that you're taking from today's session. It could be a question that you continue to have. It can be an aha moment. Would just really appreciate folks sharing their reflections on what we've shared. And folks can drop any questions at the same time and we'll try to catch them. Fair, I think the link is a little. Oh, the link. Fair, if you could send the the link again. I appreciate that. Something copy and pasted a little funky. Thank you, Myra. And so we're sharing a lot of links at the same time. So let me just orient y'all. A lot of things. This is a bad teacher move. I'm like asking you to do 10 things at the same time.
I
So
was
we're
like,
sharing. It's chaotic. It's very chaotic. So let me ground us. Just looking at the time and want to make sure we have time for questions. So we're dropping the link for our equity conference in the chat, which will be taking place May 30th. Register ASAP. It's going to be lit, as the kids say. Do they still say that, or is that me?
I still see it when Yeah, I'll put
And
the link
then,
again for the summer series.
okay, and Crystal will drop the link for the summer series as well if you're interested in staying connect. Yeah, Heather, that is Crystal's phrase. She needs to like coin it, dream on the clock. I love when she says that. Like, we really need to make space for dreaming. As kids, we're taught to dream, but we don't dream at work, and it needs to happen. So Natalie dropped a message I'll take with me is to critically analyze what structures are currently in place at my school and why they are effective, what can be done to improve them for students. Love that.
I want to just clarify that link that I am dropping in the chat is a link to all of our Institute learning options. The one that you're going to specify if you're interested in the Freedom Dreaming series is the one that says IHBS Freedom Dreaming or Summer Series. It should be at the end of that drop-down list. But if you're interested in more than one, you can click as many radio buttons as you like to get more information. Manuela will make sure you get the recording.
And Myra said Liddy. They're saying Liddy now.
Oh, they're saying Liddy? Okay. Yep. I see two very insightful things when I come through. Deanna, up a little bit in the chat said, I like thinking about interrogation because it isn't passive work, which is a part of that that pathway to transformation that we saw. It's the starting point of this work for us. And then I just saw something else come through. Yeah. Kara, how we build the plane while flying it without burning out.
That is really important work. I want you to tell me if it's Kara or Kara. I really hate mispronouncing.
I know, right?
Kara, I wish I could see you. Kara, if it's incorrect, correct us phonetically in the chat. That's a really important question, I think, because this work starts with our own healing, right? Like, we have to be in collective with one another. I think a lot of us think that we have to heal individually, but one of the things I say very often is that because the wound is collective, the healing needs to happen at the collective level. Thank you for the confirmation, Kara. So I think that's a really important question to continue to ask, is how do we make sure that we're not burning out in doing this work? It's by connecting with each other. We wanted you all to experience some collective joy. Maybe we'll do the next one as like where we can actually see you all and do some breakouts. Thank you for that question. Other folks can drop other questions in the chat too.
Lionel had a great observation there. It keeps moving for me to take dreaming seriously as a part of work. That's profound and a new idea for me, to be honest. It's more been something I do to escape. So the guided work and the bell hooks quote, rooted in reality while imagining possibilities beyond. Yeah.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, is dreaming is serious work. Oh, that could go on the t-shirt too.
And I assure you it's a very fun time that we have together too. So this is one of those opportunities in this summer when you're kind of giving up your free time to think about work, but think of all those adjectives that came through the chat when you all were describing how the exercise felt. Refreshing and rejuvenating, and a sense of relief, limitless possibilities. I think someone said, that is the experience that we really try to give you throughout this learning series. We do a longer cohort that we do with districts and schools as well. But we wanted to have a way to really kind of spend unrushed time with educators in the summer before you go back to school, to not just go back in doing the same thing in a very monotonous way, but really kind of thinking about why you do things the way that you do them and really think creatively about how you can create change today. We partner with you to really think through the possibilities, and not just with the two of us as experts. This is why this work happens in collective, because the more minds and dreams we pull together, the more change that we can create. And so we really like to build a fun learning community that becomes somewhat like family by the end. And we have 6 minutes on the clock.
We got 4 minutes to go. I just want to share. What did Linnell say? I think we got that. I'm just making sure we got all the beauty in the chat. Make sure that you all scroll up and see things that we might have missed from other people. Definitely be sharing the chat because there are some really good insights here. So really appreciate you all. So with that, we leave you all today with, if no one has any other questions, we leave you all with just the call to dream, because our future and our kids' future depends on our ability to dream. If we continue to accept the status quo, if we don't center our own well-being and our healing, we can't imagine a different future for our kids. So really excited to just be beginning this work with you all. I thank Crystal for her vision on this session, Pharaoh for helping with manning the chat and promoting and getting the word out, and for all of you all for being here with us on this evening. So have a great evening. Please stay in community with us, and just gratitude.
Bye.
Thank you.